This is episode 186 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Trever Ahing. Trever is the founder of Buyer Beater University, which specializes in novations, which we're going to do a deep dive into, but he is a creative finance specialist specifically as it comes to novation. Trever, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you and glad to go back on your background and figure out when you found out about real estate. Was it while you were in the military or before the military when you were really young that you first had an inkling for real estate?
Oh, brother, single mom, huge mama's boy. I thought buying a house was a scam. Whole family did. So coming into that, I'm like, I ended up joining the service and basically found out about 5 years in the military.
Yeah, that it's common though, and I found with all of my guests who have been in some form of the military that it's becoming more and more common now because you do go from serious time to a lot of downtime sometimes, depending on where you are. So what was the first thing that precipitated you thinking real estate while you were in service?
Well, dude, honestly, big thing on that side, right? Especially in the Marine Corps, bleeding over. I started speaking at bases and installations. Financial literacy, man, it's just not taught amongst service members. Like you said, we're busy as hell. We're doing a bunch of deployments. We're on the field all the time. So we can't even think about what, next month is even going to hold, let alone what you want to do in 20 years.
Yeah.
But, it's funny. My wife always says that her failure led to my biggest success. Cause I was going to do 30 years in the Marine Corps, brother. I was going to do it. I loved it. I loved every second of it.
Yeah.
I came home one time and my wife showed me a thing that she found on Bigger Pockets.
Yeah.
Right. There was a local meetup in San Diego. And she goes, I'm going to go here. I'm going to meet people because I'm going to get my real estate license. And I'm like, honey, you're a beautiful little Filipino woman. Go crush it. Go sell all the houses to all my friends. It's going to be awesome. Well, it was a seminar that she ended up meeting through people. It's going to be like $60.
Yeah.
And I paid for it. Long story short, fast forward to that day, she chickened out. She didn't want to go. She's an introverted extrovert. And I go, I'm not wasting 60 damn dollars. So I went to the event. And the cool thing about the event, man, I thought real estate was a super suit and tie, you always see it. And it wasn't. I started meeting people that, own, multiple properties. Guzzling beer and
flip flops.
Yeah. Dude. Yeah. Super Brandon Turner style. And I'm like, what? And I talked to somebody there and he asked me what I do. I said I was on the service and he goes, oh, you use your VA loan? And I go, no, man. And he goes, you're an idiot, brother. He goes, buy a house, put all your boys in there, rent out by the room and house hack. And that's the first light bulb I had, Jonathan. And then I said, it can't be that easy. Long story short, man, it can be that easy, you know? And so I told my wife that. We got a home. We rented out all of the rooms to my buddies in the service, made about $1,200 each room. And I was like, I got bit by the bug. And I just slowly but surely started being able to build up a foundation through those means.
And one thing I think people forget, which I've talked about on a few shows, is that your VA loan, you can get more than one property with it. It really depends where you're buying, how much allotment you have. And that's where you can really go out, get an investment and get a house for yourself because the VA doesn't work, like FHA as other people think.
No, it doesn't. I mean, I was in San Diego, so I started looking around. And I'll tell you what, I could barely even afford a freaking porta potty.
Yeah. My sister lives in Carlsbad and I've owned properties there. I'm familiar.
Yeah. I'm over in Temecula now, and I love this area. But yeah, I mean, and when you can end up creating creative measures like house hacking, it's a phenomenal way to do it. You don't need all the lights to turn green for you to be able to break even or cash flow. And kind of going into that mold, you're completely correct. You know what I mean? Utilize that, get a 4-door, get a duplex, see where your eligibility is, look at bonus eligibility, refinance conventional, take it wherever you go. Things like that. I mean, small steps that you can end up taking to attain crazy net worth just by being passive while you're doing your active duty service, and I never just thought about it like that.
Yeah, you made some really important points there because what I think people do is they just go to any lender and that's not going to help you. You need someone who specializes in VA or knows VA so they can calculate your allotment, how much you have and understand it fully. Because if you don't, you may just think, hey, I got my property, like I'm good until I turn this over. I can't do anything. But there's a lot more available out there. That obviously now licensed as well. But for buyers, it's like it can be such a windfall. And I've always found that the presentation of the VA loan is very important on the agent's part on your behalf when you're a buyer, when the veteran buyer, because you have to explain the VA loan to a lot of agents who think like, oh, no money down, they must be poor. It's like, no, I served my country. This is what I'm being rewarded with. And, I don't need to put money down. You still can put money down or put money in escrow and then take it back, which is also a great move. But yeah, I think that's important to note, because obviously you were learning as you go, but then the light bulb must have went off and you're like, okay, I can use this. And now I can figure out all these other things.
Oh yeah, man. Honestly, the VA loan is so competitive. And the thing that I tend to find, and I would love to get to this later after we kind of bridge the gap with the Novation piece, but I created something called the Veteran Home Advantage I want to go into, just because, like you stated, I mean, identifying, the right buyer's agents, the right listing agents, getting in front of it. I also see a lot of service members have to apply for 6, 7 houses, because, until they find one that they truly want to, move into. And I was able to kind of bridge the gap between that, but I see it all the time.
The way that I always thought of Novation was that when you get into a wholesale and you lock something up and you're under contract, you can't list it on the MLS because you don't have ownership rights. The Novation agreement is the thing that lets you put it on the open market as a quasi owner because you have the contract, right?
You do. You have a position of ownership on that, for the assignability. You can have a marketing clause in there, and I'm very upfront with our homeowners, right? I think that's a really big thing when you're dealing with creative as well.
Yeah,
I think creative should be very complimentary, not be confusing. I'm a dumb that got into it, and if I can figure this stuff out and have the right team behind me, I really think anybody can, because it's not, it's very approachable to be able to allow this. Like you said, you're kind of the superhero in this, where you're dealing with the same 4Ds. This is what I say, right? It's death, distress, divorce, and debt. So their situation doesn't change. And if they need cash now, then here's my cash now offer. Like, we can do this quick. But if you're willing to be able to, get more profit, and we're willing to work with my patients or your patients, we can end up positioning you, to a lot more of a higher spread, utilizing what our terms are. So it's just kind of walking the seller to something that best fits them, and having a couple options. They can kind of take a breath. They don't feel cornered, and that's cool. So people think I hate wholesale. I love wholesale. I do wholesale, but it's not something where every deal doesn't fit into the cage of of a quick cash offer.
And then also Novation is you're really working together, which promotes that, hey, partnership, cooperative, instead of like, give me your house, you're about to get foreclosed on, oh, thanks for, calling me an asshole. It's just like, that's great.
You don't come at it from an authoritative position anymore, right? It's very much a collaboration. And I love it. I tell my team that all the time. The funding is in the follow-up. I mean, it truly, truly is. And so identifying that, you're totally right, right? Anybody who's listening to this and they got debt wholesale deals, and you build rapport with the homeowner, they like you, but your offer just sucks.
Yeah.
You need to go back and say, honey, hey, Brenda. Every time I call sellers, Brenda, Brenda, I just did an opportunity.
I use Bob and Sally. I don't know why.
Bob and Sally, it's an opportunity. You were the first person I thought of when I came down to this. It's a new model that I think you and I would be able to really partner up on. And like you said, you work them into the optimism. You see exactly what the benefits are. And as long as you can digest it, or you can explain it to them, because that's also crucial.
Yeah.
Anybody who listens to Novations, the number one thing is when people, come in my community and they're like, what am I doing wrong? And they just word vomit. Well, I don't buy your house, but I'll like flip that, and they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. If they don't know, I think a lot of times they're like, oh, cool program. And they're just either, I relate it to like scripting. A lot of people just read the script and they don't understand the script. So then when they get one question off the script, they're like, I thought it was yes. Like, where's the workflow for this? There's no workflow. You have to be not a robot. Like, let's talk about, that's why, you're approaching, hey, how can I help you? As opposed to, how can I buy your house? Those are two very different questions that people think are the same.
Yeah. Well, people always forget, right? People do business with people. Right. I mean, I know that you agree. I think it's a great thing that gets positioned, but people forget about that when they see dollars behind the door. You know what I mean? When they forget about that mindless connection. I'll tell you right now, sometimes the Novation piece might not have made full sense, but because of how we were able to operate with that homeowner, and we were able to kind of hold their hand to something that made more sense to them, they're willing to take more of a cut because of the credibility that you can build. And people forget that.